The pen trembles over the white of the page, a small, deliberate quiver like a held breath. Rain taps the glass beyond the office, steady and patient. A fountain pen, a thick contract, an embossed seal. The quiet geometry of decisions. Somewhere in the building, a clock clicks, and the sound seems too loud for the room. The first line arrives like a ripple. "Sir, don't sign it." The words hang as a thought, a weight in the air, not shouted, only true. Close to the door, a small shadow waits. Not a trick or a stunt, but a single child framed in the doorway. A thin jacket, worn shoes, palms faintly smudged with the work of the day. Her hair catches the office light at the edge. She holds nothing more than a folded slip of paper, and the kind of steady that belongs to people who have learned to keep quiet while the world decides for them. The camera, if there is one, lingers on the shoes, the cuff of the sleeve, the way her knees press together, as if holding an answer inside. The desk tells another story, a photograph half hidden under a leather blotter, a flyer with a phone number for the old community hall, edges softened by many hands, the faint smell of strong coffee gone lukewarm. Beyond the polished window, towers rise like teeth. Inside, portraits suggest a lifetime of choices measured by ledger lines. This signature will move more than money. It will tilt streets, close doors, silence a music room where small voices once learned to harmonize. She came because someone had to stand in the doorway and be small and brave at the same time. Her world is a row of shops with signs that lean, a choir with one less practice this week, a teacher who borrows cups for a class of hungry kids. The things she has held, a lopsided trophy, a laminated poster for a summer program, a photo of children holding hands, are the quiet proofs that this neighborhood is more than a line on a balance sheet. The paper on his desk would erase them, slowly and polite as death. She slips the folded note into the contract without drama, a move like tucking a letter into a book. Her fingers brush the pen. For a moment the pen's shadow crosses the paper, and the world tilts. He looks up, a practiced glance that measures interruptions and sets them aside. He reads the top of the page, the legal language, the figures. He does not yet read what she leaves tucked between paragraphs. A name, a date, a memory pressed thin as tissue. Evidence of promises broken and people small enough to be forgotten. Outside, footsteps pass and the corridor hums with other plans. An assistant clears a throat in the hall, the building's machinery smoothing toward the next decision. Inside, the child breathes once, the sound almost secret. She knows the cost of asking. She has watched rooms that decide lives without looking up. Her courage is not loud. It is a soft, precise thing. He lifts the pen, the metal cap catches the light. For a single suspended second, the signature could happen and the map of their days could be redrawn. The rain keeps time like a patient witness. He does not see the paper yet, but the pen trembles, and the room feels as if it is holding its own breath. Something in that moment will decide more than a Rain drips from the eaves, carving tiny rivulets into the asphalt below. Inside the office, the tension has shifted from stillness to quiet chaos. The billionaire leans back in his chair, pen hovering, as the folded slip, the young black boy slipped into the contract, sits stubbornly in the margin. He can feel the weight of it before he even opens it, like a pulse echoing through the polished room. His gaze flicks to the child, standing resolute, her small frame anchored as if the walls themselves might fall around her. The paper unfolds slowly under his fingertips. Names, dates, faces, little proof that this one signature could erase weeks of hope, years of effort, and countless lives. Outside, the rain masks the occasional cry of a child or a distant horn. But inside, the office is a suspended world. Every breath he takes is loud, every muscle conscious of the act he was about to commit. The boy shifts slightly, one braid brushing her shoulder. Her shoes scuff against the marble, a quiet reminder that this world belongs to more than ledgers. He looks closer. The slip is simple, yet devastating. It names people he doesn't know personally, but whose lives thread into his empire. A teacher whose students depend on after-school meals. A baker who runs a tiny corner shop. A choir of children practicing after sunset. He sees their faces in small photos pressed to the paper. Suddenly the room feels impossibly vast, each corner hiding consequence. "Sir," the words echo in his mind. They aren't loud, but each syllable carries the weight of experience. The boy's eyes hold something he hasn't seen in years. Unflinching truth, a challenge to power without arrogance, a demand for conscience. The pen, once steady, now trembles as if responding to the moral gravity. Every executive in the room leans in slightly, sensing the shift. Yet the child stands like a sentinel, small, defiant, immovable. The tension stretches. He recalls boardroom deals that erased neighborhoods, promises buried under profit margins, faces of children who never saw another meal. One wrong signature, and the rain outside might as well drown an entire community. His hand tightens around the pen, and for the first time, he realizes he's not deciding for himself. He's deciding for people who trusted the world to adults like him. The young black boy steps closer. Each step is measured, careful, yet full of determination. Her eyes flick briefly to the pen and then to him. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. The quiet courage radiates in the air between them. He feels it, heavy and undeniable. He can no longer ignore the slip, the lives behind the paper, or the child who dared to step into a room full of power to prevent a mistake. Outside the office window, the storm rages. Light flickers across polished surfaces, shadows stretching like reminders of consequence. Somewhere in the building, a clock ticks, each second a heartbeat of impending choice. The billionaire exhales slowly, a hand loosening around the pen. He glances down at the slip once more. Names, photos, lives, and the small boy, unwavering. The gravity is almost unbearable, the ethical weight crushing. And then, a pause. A breath that feels like the turning point. The boy's slight nod, almost imperceptible, is enough to make him stop. The pen hovers, the paper still folded in its corner. Outside, the rain's rhythm continues, relentless, patient. Inside, the room holds a fragile, pivotal silence, the moment where one signature could have undone everything. But that day, the choice was not just about ink on paper. It was about the unseen lives that waited, and one small boy who refused to let them vanish. He unfolds the slip with a slow, careful motion, as if the paper itself might hold a heartbeat. The room contracts around the sound of rain and the soft rustle of paper. Names and dates reveal more than a plea. They map a small history, a teacher's payroll, a baker's lease renewal date, the children's choir schedule. Tucked between lines is a photograph, laughing faces, a worn banner that reads Community Hall, established 1998, a folded receipt with a stamp he once signed and then forgot. The paper is not an accusation. It is a ledger of lives. Without theatrics, memory slides across his face. He sees a younger version of himself in a borrowed suit, hands too eager to clasp opportunity, a ledger that looked like salvation and felt like escape. He remembers a promise made in passing to someone he no longer meets. The office blurs. The skyline becomes a long row of small windows where people live and fail and forgive. The pen in his hand is suddenly heavier than the weight of any deal. He breathes. The sound is ordinary and close. For a moment, the executive rhythm of the room pulls at him, the waiting calls, the silent expectation. But the fold of paper is louder than committees and forecasts. He sets the pen down on the blotter, not in grand renunciation, but like a man who has learned the cost of movement. He asks a name, the one printed on the slip. He asks for time. He asks for a meeting that looks like listening rather than a press release. Small, human requests that carry a new kind of consequence. Outside the glass, the rain eases. The child at the doorway watches him, braid touching her shoulder, as if steadying herself against the tide. She does not run or shout when he stands and crosses the room. The distance between their worlds shortens in the careful space of 2 footsteps. He does not offer speeches. He does not reach for applause. He hands back the folded slip with a phone number written in a hand that used to sign contracts and now writes a promise. Contact me, let us talk, delay until you hear us. Their exchange is modest, an envelope slid into her hand, a soft nod, a borrowed smile that seems hesitant to trust its own sincerity. He signs paperwork, but not the one that would erase the shops. Instead, he signs a temporary stay, a fund allocation to keep the program running, a clause that requires community consultation. The motions are quiet, bureaucratic, yet salvific. He does not transform in a single breath. He rearranges choices one by one until the ledger begins to reflect more than profit. Morning comes, and with it, small, visible relief. A baker opens his door and breathes, the line outside a little longer than yesterday, but he is smiling as if he found a room to stand in again. A teacher pins attendance sheets to a battered corkboard and counts heads without the edge of panic. Children return to practice under a banner that flutters like a small flag of survival. The neighborhood does not erupt in trumpets. It simply moves forward, steadier than before. Later, standing in a quiet courtyard, the child folds her jacket tighter and looks at the man who could have signed oblivion. He watches her with the careful attention of someone learning how to be human in small increments. There is no pretense, no final line of triumph, only the slow work of repair. The last image is small and private, the pen placed back into its case, capped, and the child walking down the wet street with the envelope pressed to her chest. The camera lingers on the ribbon of her braid, catching the light. In that simple silence, the truth settles. Power can change course when someone small speaks with a voice that will not be ignored. Sometimes the smallest voice in the biggest room is the reason the world keeps